Hello and welcome. My name is Kim Laughlin. I'm a certified health coach and your presenter. I'm excited to be here with you because as a health coach, I'm often called upon to educate on food and nutrition. But health and wellness is really an all-encompassing factor in many areas of our lives. I'm much like you. I have a family, job, and I'm constantly trying to balance them both. And as a wife and a mother of 2 daughters, I work hard to feed my family healthy, as well as take care of the household and manage a career. It's not always easy. Let me take a moment to tell you a little about my personal journey. 13 years ago, I was blessed with a beautiful baby girl, and I made it my purpose to make sure she was fed as healthy as possible. I ate very healthy and nursed her for over a year. When we started her on food, we made sure it was organic to give her the best possible start. This was all great, but slowly we were finding that she was having severe car sickness no matter how long of a drive it was. She then began to have frequent headaches, and over the years, it reached a pinnacle when she started to suffer from chronic abdominal pain. She was absent from school so much that I was concerned she would have to repeat the year. I was pulled from work and did not have a very sympathetic boss. For several months, it was an endless amount of pediatric appointments, x-rays, ultrasounds, blood tests, acid reflux meds, anti-constipation meds for her, then onto all the major hospitals in the New England area. But to no avail, as no one had any answers. Finally, I was referred to the best of the best, pediatric gastroenterologist. I thought I was finally going to find relief from my sweet daughter. After she was examined and more x-rays, more tests, my husband and I were told he had never seen anything like her pain before. And his diagnosis was, it was all in her head. Now, I of course was not happy to hear this, but for a moment I thought, at least we know what we're dealing with. We were encouraged to take her to yet another emergency room due to the level of pain she was experiencing, and a child psychologist was appointed to see my daughter the very next day. When the child psychologist came in, my husband and I left the room for her evaluation, and after she was evaluated by the psychologist, she came up to my husband and I and told us that there was nothing wrong with my daughter's emotional state. Now, of course, I was glad to receive this information, but I felt like we were back to square one. So I discharged my daughter and I took her home. I put her in bed that night, I kissed her forehead, and I promised her I would find the answer. Now, please understand, I have nothing against conventional medicine, but for this instance, it wasn't one of those times where I was going to find any answers. I immersed myself in researching her symptoms and started to realize that no one asked about her diet. I didn't think to mention it as I felt I was feeding my children very healthy. I didn't have the luxury of time. So I took my daughter to a holistic nutritionist with a PhD, and we were only speaking of food that she had been eating throughout her life. I became aware of the fact that we were looking at the causes and symptoms together. He examined my daughter, and after doing some testing, he informed me my daughter had food sensitivities, not allergies, sensitivities. We went home that day, removed several items from her diet so she could start the healing process. My daughter needed changes immediately, and I can tell you it was quite a challenge. But we were on a mission to help her get well. We did, and she now is able to manage her own symptoms when she isn't so good, making sure that she eats the right things. So through all this, I came to realize I wanted to do what I dreamed of for so long, and I became a health coach. I want to help others and bring awareness to what we can do on a daily basis to help minimize stress and hopefully prevent the nightmare of what my daughter endured for other families. It starts with everyday life and how to manage it better. I have found ways to minimize the craziness of work, activities, and meals while keeping it all healthy at the same time. It doesn't have to be difficult, and I'm going to teach you how, so let's go ahead and get started. This webinar is on my 5-step program to Workweek Stress Survival. During this presentation, you will learn how to survive the fast-forward pace of the work week and tips you can implement immediately. My program goes through a 5-step process to eliminate stress and get on a path to health without it being difficult and, more importantly, has sustainability. If you haven't already, please download my free guide included with subscribing to this presentation to assist you on your journey to an enjoyable work week. Reference this guide as you listen, or simply just keep it as a tool to create the changes you seek. It has wonderful information. You see, being stressed has fast become the new norm, and this needs to change. I'm pretty confident I blueprinted the typical day of a working parent with a busy family life. From the moment you wake up with your morning routine to get yourself and your family out the door on time, just to sit in traffic and hope you aren't late arriving to work, the demands of your job for the next 9 or 10 hours, racing home to pick up the children and bringing them to their practice or game, then after that, getting home, schoolwork, oops, forgot about dinner, need to order out, get to bed late, and repeat the process again the next day. It's almost like Groundhog Day. Do you feel like this some days, if not all the time? Always feeling several steps behind? It doesn't have to be like this. We're used to our fast-paced world, and I even hear mothers brag about their full calendar, coupled with complaining about it. To be honest, all it does is make the person they're speaking to glad they aren't them. Sorry, I don't mean to come across as insensitive, but it is the truth. The biggest reason for this is an addiction to busy. This is not a badge of honor, it's toxic, and it's important to change a few habits. Don't worry, I have tips you can learn during this webinar that will get you on your way to a more streamlined and organized week without feeling overwhelmed. In addition, if you stay till the end, I will have a great surprise for you. Let's state the obvious for just a moment. Here are the top 7 stressors I received in a survey I sent out to working parents. Anger, traffic, death, punctuality, job security, along with that came finances, and finally, the health and safety of the children. I think we can all agree that these are ever present in our lives. Now, let's talk about some, less obvious forms of stress. Disappointment is an emotion we tend to categorize on its own. When our expectations aren't met, regardless of how realistic or unrealistic they are, it causes stress. Every parent has or will experience their child coming home hurt physically or emotionally by someone at school. I'll use bullying as an example because unfortunately it is a daily occurrence in schools. You go into protection mode driven by your unconditional love you have for your child and, well, enough said. Stress. Whether in a relationship or in just a casual conversation, you will be very surprised at how stressful not being listened to is. Constantly getting cut off, not being able to finish what you're saying. Try to be conscious of this the next time it happens. For any situation, especially good, we mentally explore all the bad things that can happen. I know this is great, but what if this happens? And what if that happens? Worrying ensues over something that hasn't even happened. Why do we do that? Judging others is stressful because you're looking for negativity in others to somehow make yourself feel better. Trust me, it is an exercise in futility. Never saying no and trying to please others will do nothing but cause you to try to fill a void of acceptance that, will just never happen. Do something because it's the right thing to do or because you truly want to do it without anything in return. When you, quote-unquote, people please, most likely they inevitably do not return the favor, and you become angry and stressed. Yes, honesty is stressful. No, not when you have to give a compliment, but when you have to deal with a difficult conversation. Most look the other way, but all that happens is you search for a captive audience to complain to. There is a productive way to be honest without ruining relationships. It's not easy for people to do. They become conflict avoidant, and it creates a layer of stress. Poor diet fails to fuel the body, and illness is a result. It may be a headache or worse. All areas of your body require good nutrition. And when you don't provide proper nutrition, your body will take where it has to triage the issues it encounters, especially in areas of stress. Now, I could go into much further detail about how food minimizes symptoms, but that's another show. What stress does? Well, it causes us to release cortisol. Cortisol is something we may have heard about, but may not know exactly what it is. It's a hormone in our body to help us in certain circumstances. So, for instance, you come across a very scary situation, and this hormone helps you in a fight or flight mode. It's there to protect you. In this instance, you work off the effect of the hormone that is needed. However, daily chronic stress, with all that I just covered and many more, causes this hormone to not only be released but to be stored, and this has many negative effects. Weight gain, learning and memory impairment. It causes your brain to shrink. It's amazing. But don't fret, because you can reverse the effects of stored cortisol by engaging in exercise and even implementing a little meditation in your daily routine. Now, don't knock it until you try it. Stress raises our blood pressure and all that comes along with it, especially being at risk of a stroke. Fatigue is not a normal symptom. Your body is trying to communicate with you. You should not be tired all the time. Skin issues are often dismissed as either not so serious or something you just have to live with. Health starts with the inside out. Skin is the last organ to show you that there is an imbalance. Listen to your body. Digestive distress. Not to get into too many details, but your bowel movements are all too telling of your eating habits and your stress level. You must take care of your digestive tract, as it's the bridge to the rest of your body. Chronic illness such as type 2 diabetes and heart disease are just a few to mention, and both can be very preventable. Okay, so I've spent time on what can happen when we're stressed. Now, how do you go about fixing it and creating a streamlined work week? So this is what it all comes down to. Habit creation. The following are 5 steps to your pathway of a stress-free work week. Why? Plan. Switch. Small. Consistency. Let's go through them now. You can want something so badly, but if you aren't willing to make the effort to edit a few behaviors, then you just don't want it bad enough. I do not mean to sound punitive. We are all different, and we all have our own reasons for making changes. What's yours? In order for you to make a meaningful difference, you must have a why that resonates with you. Again, in order for you to make a meaningful difference, you must have a why that resonates with you. For instance, perhaps paying attention to diet is not enough of a concern until you experience chronic illness. You see, sometimes it doesn't matter until it matters. Remember my why from earlier on in this presentation? It was most certainly a big enough of a reason. So again, your why must be big enough or sustainability is going to be weakened. Temptation will always be there, but remember your why and bring it to the forefront and you will persevere. I promise you. Next, plan. Now I hear those eyes rolling, but stick with me. Understand that any action you do over and over again, it creates a habit. At first it'll seem like the first time you drove a car. You are aware of everything, every turn of the wheels, where your hands were on the steering wheel, the gas and the brake, and how hard to press them. And over time it became conditioned. And now ask yourself, how aware are you when you're driving? Yeah, it bubbles to the surface when you are lost or trying to find your way in an unfamiliar area. Take a moment and think about a day that you have 20 minutes. Truly, just 20 minutes. You don't have to do a detailed list of your weekly events, but glancing at your calendar and seeing where you have time or where you need to make time to plan. Now, this part alone may cause a little discomfort because it's committing to a change. It's natural, but embrace it and move forward. At first, Make sure you use a red pen. This will help you stay on track and give it a sense of urgency. I promise you, it's worth the effort. Now treat this appointment to plan like any other appointment. You should see a slot that says Plan for the Week. And as I mentioned earlier, if you stay to the end, I have a surprise for you. The surprise will help you launch your planning and make things much easier. Switching your thoughts. Now, bear with me. This is going to seem a little woo-woo, but it's a very important step. Do you realize with every thought that you have, there is a biological response? Now think about it. If you get good news, you get excited, you get elated, perhaps jump for joy. If you get bad news or have an argument, your blood pressure rises, your heart beats fast, you spiral into a fruitless circular dialogue with yourself, and when that's exhausted, you call a friend to vent. I'm not saying you can't call a friend or a loved one to discuss your issue, but try to figure out a resolution versus going to someone in hopes that they'll just jump on your bandwagon and be your captive audience. Hey, look, I'm as guilty as the next person, but I'm aware and I do my best to nip it in the bud. So, for example, say to yourself, I look forward to getting to work on time versus, I'm going to be late again due to a ton of traffic. Perhaps another example is I look forward to staying healthy and not, I really don't want to get sick. Make an effort to spin to the positive side as much as possible. And again, this is a habit that needs to be created, as most of us are conditioned to lean to the less than positive side of things. And this comes in handy when you need a boost to stay on track with goals to a less stressed work week. Start small. Our need for immediate satisfaction causes us to take on too much change in too short amount of time. We fall back on old habits because we haven't changed to the new norm. We didn't give it enough time. It is a recipe for failure. Be careful not to give yourself a limited amount of time for a change. Anytime you assign an expiration date, you're in a constant state of deprivation. Old habits creep back in. It's inevitable. Remember, too much, too soon leads to overwhelm, followed by abandonment. Let me ask, how many diets have you been on? What if you could stop dieting and instead change a few habits which will lead to sustained improved health? See, this is why fad diets don't work. It's a false sense of success. Once you reach your loss of, let's say 10 pounds, you go back to old habits and the cycle repeats itself. So look, take on 1 or 2 small changes at a time and practice them regularly. It takes 21 to 30 days to create a habit, but do it as long as it takes for you to create your habit. Once you have it down, you add 1 more. Once you have those down, you add 1 more. Trust me, this works. I promise you. Consistency. Being consistent is key. Even when creating an appointment to make sure you plan your week, it must be consistent. I not only mark my calendar for meals for the week, but I make sure that there aren't any of those one-off appointments like the dentist appointment. Thank goodness for reminder calls, by the way. This is a good time to mark down meals, reminder to bring snacks for practice or games when I might not be able to stop home first, days to do grocery shopping. And for me, every night before school, I have my children assemble their snacks for the next day, lay out what they're going to be wearing the next day, which eliminates, I don't know where my shoe is, I don't know where my shirt is, and mayhem the next morning. Make sure that their books and their homework are all set in their backpacks and by the door. And the next morning, all I have to do is cook them breakfast and make sure their lunch is put together. They have to brush their hair, brush their teeth, and voila, they're ready for the day. When this isn't done, chaos creeps in. It's essential we stay consistent so our days don't start off on the wrong foot. Hands-on tips. One of the tricks I use all the time is cook once and eat many times. I don't think of this as leftovers. If I'm going to cook chicken breast, let's say, I make 3 to 4 times as much as I need. I put aside what I'll use for lunch or dinner for the next day and freeze the rest for the evenings that I just don't want to cook at all. Your freezer, don't use it as the black hole of holding food until you just throw it away due to freezer burn. Treat it as a pantry. Okay, so we all know the slow cooker is a great go-to. Pull it off the shelf, dust it off, and promise to use it at least once a week to start. All you have to do is put vegetables and your protein of choice, seasonings, a little liquid, and turn it on. And when you come home, dinner's cooked. How often have you come home to a nice home-cooked meal? Slow cookers can do this for you. Just rethink how meals can be done. If you don't possess one, go get one. They are not expensive. Soup. I love soup. I make soup every month or so and freeze portion containers. It's so welcomed, especially when it's cold and I have a very limited amount of time between I'm home and I have to head out. Even if you don't have time to eat, heat it up, pour it into a thermos. Your child can have a healthy home-cooked meal when you can't be at home. Stir fry is so simple and so quick. Chop the vegetables and protein into small pieces, put it into a hot pan, olive oil, seasonings, stir fry until doneness, and you have dinner. I have done it in 15 minutes. You can even chop up all the ingredients ahead of time, put them into freezer bags, and pull them out when needed. Again, freezer as a pantry. Smoothies are often forgotten about, and this is a great way to get fruits and vegetables into your children. There are tricks to what to use for ingredients, but this is a wonderful option, especially during the warmer months. Keeping snacks on hand. Buy some good quality granola, fruit nut bars, keep them in the car. If I'm going to buy something prepackaged, I make sure they are organic. Fruit comes with its own package. Put some like oranges, apples, grapes, whatever, into a bag or a cooler and keep them in your car. And now you don't have to go very far for a healthy alternative for your child and keeping those hungries at bay. The food truck and snack bar are not going to have any food worth much nutrition. You can even bring a homemade sandwich just so you are not eating out. Now look, maybe all of these steps may be too overwhelming, so I recommend just taking one step at a time. Be consistent for 3 weeks. Trust me, a habit will be formed for the better. And then adding another one, like we talked about earlier. I promise you, it's worth it. Time for a break? Yes! Isn't it time to give yourself a break? Why exist like it's Groundhog Day? By adding just one of my steps to your routine, you'll be started on your path to a seamless work week. Don't wait until next week or the beginning of next month. Do yourself a favor and start now. You deserve it. But wait, there's an added bonus. I'm offering a free, no obligation health reset one-on-one coaching session with me. A phone call could make all the difference. You'll walk away with a blueprint to your specific wellness goal. Don't wait. Call today or email me and schedule your free, no obligation health reset session. Thank you for watching this webinar, and I look forward to you making progress to a less stressed work week. Contact me if interested in learning more about my services, and be sure to like me on Facebook. Make it a great day.